Network of awareness makes your brain coherent. One of the fastest growing podcasts. You hear it 24/7. Got listeners out in London, informationalists in Paris. The echo spreading out, no parrot. Just dissect, digest, and share it. The righteous rhymes hit the spirit. Click 90 times, it won't perish. Cause y'all's the mind ain't no fairy tale like the Valley our parents. It's time to rise, don't get wary. United minds, it's apparent. Download every single errand, but most ain't fit to catch it, even if they were Larry. Interviews, the interludes, they enter you, taking you on a journey like no other. It places you in a state of awareness. It's your fault if you hate the truth, cause Yahweh's on his way, my brother. Better change your views. All praise, yeah.
Peace and greetings. Presenting the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, providing in-depth information on society and culture in America and abroad, bringing you truth messages of inspiration, keen insight, reputable interviews, and so much more. So now, for the truth you've been waiting for, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast, Aura, the informationalist.
Peace and greetings, people. This is Aura the Informationalist, and you're now tuned in to a live broadcast of the Network of Awareness on this beautiful Faith Over Fear Friday episode. It is Friday, November 4th, the first Friday of the month, out here in the Tampa Bay area, broadcasting out of. And we got a wonderful show here today for you people. Today's show is going to be a very meaningful one to me and my guests. And my guest is not a stranger to the show. I have none other than Take One on the show today that's going to be coming on in just a moment. And what Take One and I are going to talk about is how you got to be careful to dehumanize people that you disagree with, because in our self-righteousness, we can easily become the very thing we dislike in others. And that's a very important topic of discussion for today, because some of us are doing this right now and we don't even realize it. Some of us have been doing it for so long that it's become second nature to us, and we don't even realize that it is hurting us, because what we speak from our tongues winds up cursing ourselves if it's not coming from a true place of love and righteousness. Because hate is an emotion, is a way of being that is very easily practiced. It's the very low nature of men and women that is utilized to make this world become such a place of division. And a lot of times when we are coming from a place of dehumanizing people, demeaning people, demonizing people, and coming from a hateful spirit, we wind up only cursing ourselves. So we're going to talk a lot about this on this particular episode on Faith Over Fear Friday, November 4th. It's a beautiful sunny day out here in the Tampa Bay area, and I want to say peace and blessings to all the brothers and sisters from around the world that are going to be tuning into this live broadcast with Take One and I, and those that are going to be downloading the show. And like I always say, if you're going to download the show, you can download it from any listening streaming platform. But I would prefer that you download the show from my website, networkofawareness.com. So let's get this show started. Let's get it started right. Shall we? Let's go.
Please just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
You are now tuned in to the Network of Awareness. To the Network of Awareness. To the Network of Awareness.
Yes, brothers and sisters from around the world, welcome to the Network of Awareness. And to all my truth seekers and critical thinkers, I welcome you to this Faith Over Fear broadcast, and it's going to be a really good one. So let's welcome on to the show my co-host and special guest for today's show, Take One.
Hey, shalom, Moore. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, shalom, brother. How you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself, brother?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. And I think we're going to have a meaningful show today. It's really good to have you on. And, before we get into the topic of discussion, man, let's talk about some things real quick, just to touch on them briefly. But obviously, have you heard about the artist by the name of Takeoff that was recently killed out in Texas City?
Oh, yeah, I've definitely heard about that. It came to my knowledge, just a few short days ago and everything like that. When it was brought to my attention, I was just like, wow, really? I had no idea because, I don't, much like yourself, I don't, really keep up too much with these things either. I wouldn't have known unless it was brought to my, attention. And
it's interesting because there's an artist, and I read this in an article because I have this new app that breaks down, current events and breaking news. And somebody by the name of Boy, B-O-I, Cardi, basically there was a song that was playing. I don't know if it was on his Instagram page because he did a post on Instagram on his Instagram stories. And there was a song by Boy Cardi. And let me see if I could pull the song up. Boy Cardi. I'm going to look him up real quick. I want to look at the title of the song because this particular song was playing and it has something to do with death. And it's interesting how Playboy Cardi, that's his name, Playboy Cardi. And he had a song about death, about kind of like your time is nigh kind of theme to it. Not really sure what the name of the song is. Let me see if I can pull it up in one of my newsreels here real quick, because the way it's talked about that coincidentally that he died while this song just played moments before his death. And they said coincidentally it was playing, but we all know that there really is no such thing as coincidence, right? Especially when it comes to these artists that have bonded themselves and pretty much sold their soul to Satan in order to get the level of notoriety and prestige that they have. There's so many stories that came out since then, so I can't even pull it up. But basically, moments before he died, he got shot and killed. And I just find it interesting that these, the level of sacrifice, especially with 28-year-olds, is very consistent. And there's something with that number in Gematria where these brothers are getting killed and sisters at 28 years old at a specific time. And I was saying to Jay Baroni from the Curiosity Chamber podcast about how let's see how they come to rise, the other two artists, which one of them is his cousin, his blood cousin. And let's see what happens to their careers by this time next year. Let's see how they elevate, because if they do, if they start to steadily increase in fame and notoriety, we already know what that was all about. But we know that these are blood sacrifices, right? We're not ignorant to this like many other people are, but I thought it was just interesting that happened. And now that's mainstream stories that are being tossed around. Same thing with Kyrie Irving with the whole anti-Semitic comments. And then you have the same thing with Kanye. And like I mentioned before, this is all controlled opposition. You know, no matter if they suspend these people like they did with Kyrie, or take them off of labels like they did with Kanye, or off of brands and all that, this is all controlled opposition, people. And it's all meant to to bring you down, And especially melanated people. These very people are the Pied Pipers of propaganda that are meant to bring you down even more and to suppress you even more. And I was having a conversation with a couple of brothers about that yesterday. So just wanted to touch on that real quick. Anything you want to add to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, all these things that are going on. I mean, while they got you focused on this with the right hand, on the left hand, they're getting ready to hit you with a sucker punch. I mean, we didn't even mention the whole election thing that's going on as well. That's another, added, distraction as well, because we know that, the elections and all that is a facade as well. Whoever, the two individuals are who's on the podium speaking about, what they're going to do for America, all patriotic and whatnot. We know that they're not the ones in control. They're just puppets, for those who are, up above them, then obviously, the death of, the artist, Takeoff, all that. I mean, all these things are just distractions, man. Just distractions, Kanye. I mean, come on, man. I mean, like I said, once all that's, said and done, whatever it is that, they got, planned or hidden underneath the surface, ready to pretty much hit America with, all the citizens who, live here and whatnot, who's focused on all of this entertainment and nonsense. Like, by the time all of this is decided, their plan or their agenda would already have been, well constructed and formed for them to launch the attack that they didn't want you to see. That's how Satan operates. He's very crafty, very, very crafty and deceptive.
I agree. And another thing too is the great deception in the way these elections are going to go, and really pinning this whole Republican versus Democrat. And the sad part about it too is that the fact of the matter is that a lot of people already know that voting doesn't matter. It doesn't even make a little bit of a difference at all. Like it doesn't matter. And people are still, it's shocking to see grown adults behaving like if they put this ballot inside of a box, that it's going to make their life better. When this government for the past 400 years plus has been showing you that it doesn't matter. It's like they're going to do what they want to do, and that's it. Ain't nothing else going to come from that. Like putting a ballot in a box is just an illusion to make you think that you actually have a say in how this country operates. It's pretty pathetic, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because this election, another thing Biden said too recently was that when they do these elections, that the votes are not going to be read immediately. Like it's going to take at least a week or two. So that already lets you know that some funny business is going to happen. And what's even going to be even more funny is to see if Trump gets back in the race, which I hope he doesn't, because I'm really not looking forward to so-called white people out here in America to start puffing their chests out all over again. I'm really not looking forward to that. But we'll see what happens, because there's a lot of so-called white people, which we all know that's a social construct, right? Color codes. But right. So-called white people who are our brothers and sisters that are spiritual beings having a physical experience, just like anybody else, that a lot of them are waking up to the reality that this country never gave a shit about them ever. And that all the privilege that they have is just an illusion to create, division and discord amongst each other and amongst people of other cultural backgrounds or ethnicities. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, let's talk about this love. Let love conquer hate, right? Something you and I have talked about a lot in the past month or two is this whole thing about, people being so self-righteous and having to be careful of the company you keep, the people that you are in conversation with on a regular basis, the people that are having an influence on your life. And you and I come from a particular platform of people that we used to somewhat congregate with digitally and remotely. And we shared similar beliefs in the way we see life and the way we appreciate and love the Most High. And a lot of us came from this, or should I say, you and I came from this environment where it was heavily influenced by one man who had a very, the best way I can explain it is like he had a very skewed way of looking at life that was very pessimistic, very critical and judgmental in a negative way. And a lot of times people like you and I, and this has happened to other people in camps, in congregations, in groups that they're with, whether it be political groups, whether it be social groups, whatever grouping, right? We wind up congregating with these types of people and we wind up adopting the same ideologies and philosophies by following them for such a consistent period of time. And what it winds up doing to you is you wind up taking on that energy, and then that energy for you and I, we wound up isolating ourselves from the world, okay? And put it like this, and I mentioned this to you earlier today about even though we are not of the world, we still live in the world. So we got to deal with the world. And as we are growing and getting rooted into the word of the Most High, and I'm speaking for myself, and if you agree, let me know if you disagree. But as we're getting more rooted into this world or into this word, we're starting to realize that we have to be an example of being that root that's rooted in the word for the rest of the world, instead of demonizing the world for being ignorant or not knowing or behaving in a manner that is not appropriate or acceptable in the eyes of the Most High. So my question to you is, with everything I just explained, can you touch on, some of the things on why it's very important to surround yourself with people that are in that positive, righteous light and are really living that and expressing that and speaking that from their own tongues?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, very, very important that you surround yourself with people of a like mind because, as they say, birds of a feather flock together. If you're just hanging around people that, contrary to how you're trying to live your life, how you perceive life, and just very low vibrational, you know what I'm saying? They're not really, living the type of lifestyle that, you're living. Don't get twisted now. We're all different, but at the same time, it's just like, you bring up, for instance, like the word, if we really are trying to live our life according to the word, but, your life is the total opposite of what it is that, Most High, expects of us, and, just trying to live a more balanced and just life, then obviously, that's going to rub off on you in some ways. And, that's when you have to start questioning yourself, should I really be hanging, around these people? Is it really wise for me to, really dwell here? And you'll know it, the Most High will show you that, and it's definitely gonna show just by the way in which you feel, because, spirit doesn't lie, we're all spirits before we're these flesh bodies, nothing is gonna ever be more accurate than our, spiritual intuition, especially when the Most High is showing you signs. And so you'll know when something's just not right just by the way you feel. I'm saying? If you either, should keep doing this. And in regards with people, you really should only make sure that you're congregating and, bonding yourself with people that are, of a like mind, people that are there to help you grow, to help you elevate spiritually. And it should be the same, It's not just a one-way street. At the end of the day, we're here to help. We're supposed to be, having peace, camaraderie, being that body, you know what I'm saying, like the scripture speaks of. We even talked about that as well earlier, how we're supposed to be truly one body. We're supposed to act as such. It's not enough to just say it. You're supposed to actually act that way, put it into the actual concrete practice. You know what I'm saying? If I see my brother over here, you know what I'm saying, he's kind of down, or he's lacking, you know what I'm saying, or perhaps, like a sister, I should be there to lift them up. I can't count how many times that's happened for me, because the Most High has put me in a position where he surrounded me with the type of people that I really need in my life, people that genuinely care about me, who are indeed, on the same righteous path as I am, and they genuinely have my best interests at heart, just as I have their best interests, in my heart. Therefore, I'm not always going to just, and even, if we want to bring in, scriptures as well, in the book of Titus speaks of, having the same type of humility, that Christ had, because when he was here, yeah, he was the Son of the Most High, but at the same time, he wasn't always just minding his own things, what I'm saying, but he was also minding the things of others as well. But at the end of the day, it's not just about us, and that all goes back to being, in the body, and we should be there for each other. We should check up on each other. We should encourage each other, while we're still here living in this wicked society, in this dark, twisted world, I mean, it's hard enough being a human being, alone, but together, what I'm saying, we can help each other, what I'm saying, we can motivate one another, and we can get through that darkness, together. So definitely should, mind the, the circle that you're a part of, the people that are around you, and making sure that, they truly are for you, what I'm saying, as you are for them, because who you hang around and who you associate yourself with really ultimately is a reflection of you.
Well said. Speaking of that, I met with Brother Dawad yesterday, and we got to hang out for a pretty significant amount of time. I'd say we hung out for a good 5 hours straight yesterday. We got to eat some food, some breakfast, what I'm saying? We also got to hang out downtown where I live at, and really got to see some sights. And it's one thing with accountability, and the place where you and I met, there's really no accountability amongst brothers and sisters. Nobody is really holding anybody accountable for their actions, as well as, because they consider it to be a family, but nobody's holding each other accountable, especially the person who brings it all together. Nobody's holding them accountable for anything. And that's why when you have no accountability, especially when you're not meeting with people in person, the level of accountability is not going to even really exist. But when you're actually congregating with people in person, that accountability kind of comes naturally, because you're actually having a real life experience with them. And you're actually, and I brought this up to you earlier, is where when you're in person with somebody, like I was in person with Dawad, and I got to look him, in the face, eye to eye, and be able to have a conversation with him about a lot of things that him and I have talked about remotely. It's that level of presence spiritually, that essence that you're getting to see, to where when you're hanging out with these people that you consider your brothers and sisters, that you consider like families in the word of the Most High, and you consider to be people that you admire and care about, even if you just getting to know them, but you're getting to know them with the intentions that, hey, if I'm getting to know you like a brother, then I'm going to start caring from the jump until proven otherwise. I feel like where you and I came from, a lot of that accountability doesn't even exist. And that's why a lot of those brothers and sisters be doing a lot of trifling things behind the scenes. A lot of ratchetness goes on that nobody's ever going to know about, because there is no accountability. And the fact that you and I, and I have to mention this, I feel like when it comes to Julian, the Most High was working through that brother to bring us into an environment that was more conducive to how you and I operate on a regular basis, just in our spirit, and how we are the type of brothers that we want to build. We want to make our contributions to something far greater and come together as a community, come together in fellowship, and really adhere to the principles that make and bring harmony to that type of an environment. And I truly believe, and this is my own personal opinion, and of course, Take, you're going to say what you want to say, but I just personally personally believe that a lot of the people that you and I are congregating with separately and together is the type of environment that the Most High wanted us from the get-go. And we wasn't in that type of environment. That's why we had to got taken out of that environment, because that environment was filled with a lot of judgment that was based on false pretenses, a lot of hate and a lot of anger and a lot of ego and, delusional self-righteousness. And I had mentioned this to you before, where it was like you and I were a circle trying to be placed into a square, and it just wasn't happening. It just could never fit. The energies weren't really matching. On the outside looking in, it looks like it did, but in actuality, internally for me, it just wasn't working. There was always that suspect feeling, but overriding it by giving it the benefit of the doubt and having that love and saying, you know what, let me give this the benefit of doubt. Even though it's not feeling right, let me try to see if something's going to change down the line. Only to find out that nothing was going to change. And the Most High had to reveal that to me that, hey, if you're not going to get out, I'm going to force you out so that you can achieve and receive something far better. And I truly believe that that's what's happening right now, is that now I'm congregating with brothers and sisters that are a lot like me, in the sense, not specifically like me as an individual, but like me in spirit, to where they want to focus on having everybody come together and having a foundation that doesn't have a caste system, a status system, a system of titles, where it's like, well, I'm the captain. So since I'm the captain and you're the soldier, you got to treat me this way and I got to treat you this way. Or, I'm a Hebrew and you're a Gentile and you're going to be serving me water in the kingdom, and all this bullshit that just is so like, oh man, it's so ratchet and so ignorant. But at the same time, we were gravitating to this type of information. And what it was doing for me is that it was very much isolating me from the glory and all of the opportunities that the Most High was presenting to me, that I was isolating myself from based on false ideologies. But now, as I've been taken out of that, I feel like I'm building with brothers and sisters that are like, they're really about that life. Like, they're really about serving. They're really about being servants to the Most High. And that's one of the reasons why I don't even like using the term kings and queens no more. Because if you look at the history of kings and queens, a lot of bad things happened based under their rule. And it really wasn't about community. It was really about serving their agenda. So if we're really about serving the Most High, we all servants. We all the children of the Most High, respecting our parent, So that's all I want to say, brother. You could take it from there.
Right. And you made a lot of great points, what I'm saying, just about, everything that you said, the former environment that we were once in, and how it wasn't really conducive to what it is that the Most High is, pretty much has laid out for us, in the future. But it's also interesting that, you brought up the Wad, and I'm glad that you brothers were able to, go down and, St. Petersburg, spend time with one another, really get to see each other face to face. I think that's beautiful because, like I told you before, that's the essence of, fellowship and whatnot, actually seeing each other face to face and in person. And I think it's a great thing that the two of you were able to have that fellowship with each other, and seeing each other in the flesh and, just having a great time. I'm saying, as two brothers in the faith. But it's interesting that you brought up the why, because you said that the Most High pretty much forced you out of the environment. And it's interesting because that's what he pretty much told me when I spoke to him, when all of these, tragically went down. Like, he pretty much told me, like, the Most High is, he's forcing you to grow up. This is what he told directly to me. So when you said that the Most High forced you out of that environment, that's why I'm just like, And then you brought up the word. I was like, that's exactly what the brother said to me. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's not quantum physics or anything like that. It's a simple matter. I mean, if it's not meant to be, it's just not meant to be. Brothers like you and I, we truly are empaths. We really do have a genuine love and care for humanity. People would even label us as sensitive, which is fine. Because it is what it is. Either you are that or you're not, but the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter how much love or how much, charity or generosity that you're operating in. If the people that you are among aren't of the same type of spirit or character, it's going to be a lot of, head bumping, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to really be a peaceful environment to really dwell. You can't really fix something and make straight that's not meant to be. If it's crooked, it's crooked for a reason. You know what I'm saying? You can't really make that straight. You can't force it. Either it is or it's not. And with you and I, you know what I'm saying, the path that we're on and the way in which the Most High has built us, with our upbringings and the way we were raised, and then, just who we are spiritually, because the Most High knows who you are. He just knew that we can no longer, be there. So however he has to do it, you know what I'm saying? It's just, with the Most High, it's either either you can just listen right away, or, he's going to have to show you the hard way, you know what I'm saying, why you need to listen and why this is not going to work. And a lot of the times, he'll show you the signs. He'll show you the signs. He'll show you that, okay, this is the choice to make or whatnot. But we make things harder for ourselves when we decide to ignore things or give things the benefit of the doubt, or everything, will work out or it'll work itself out. But what we fail to realize is that if it's not the will of the Most High, it's just not his will. And so that's pretty much, what the case was for, you and I. But, you even speak of Julian as well. He Most High, like I said, there is no coincidences. The show that, he did when, JB came on, and he spoke his testimony, that was a spiritual milestone. That was monumentally powerful. I mean, words can't even explain, what I'm saying, the amount of demons that were infuriated, what I'm saying, because of, that show. But it's things like that just goes to show you that, what I'm saying, the Most High is, how real he really is, and, what he's trying to do and what he's trying to establish and put together, And so, got to give him all praises, because, I mean, if it wasn't, for these situations, I mean, we just wouldn't have seen what was really at play here, But now, looking back at everything in hindsight, you get to see things for what it is. And now it's just the path of, peace and really, establishing ourselves and, things it is that the Most High, has in store for us and what he, wants us to accomplish. And so that's all I had to say about that.
Yeah, that interview, and it was brought to my attention that that interview was very significant, man, in so many different ways. I mean, literally, like it give me 1 second, brother, because if you could mute yourself, or I'll do it on my end, so that way, yeah, we don't get that background noise. That thing was so significant, man, because it was brought to my attention that was one of the pivotal moments that led to that tribal gaslighting that I experienced. Because a lot of times, and many people have experienced this, because I've had a lot of people contact me after that situation, telling me that they've had similar situations like that, where it's like you can have a person that is really jealous and envious of you in the highest forms, and then it all winds up coming out based on one situation. Or it could be a multitude of situations. And I was brought to my attention that the level of attention that interview had present at the present moment when it was being conducted and afterwards was so inspirational and so life-changing. I know it was for me, and it was for other people that have told me, and a lot of grown men told me that they broke down into tears like little babies, and we all know that real men are supposed to cry. Real men do cry. Being sensitive is not a bad thing. It makes you more, I feel like, being the type of men that we are, we're more men than most men that want to be on that machismo shit, That machismo shit keeps you very limited as growing as a man. It really does. It really messes you up. And that interview with JB, boy, it really kind of like it was like the beginning of the nail that was about to be hammered into the coffin for everything to come crashing down. All of this jealousy and animosity and envy just came boom in one shot. And then it brought out that jealousy out of other people, where other people came out of the woodworks, like out of nowhere. It's like, where were you at? Oh, you were sitting in the shadows this whole time, hating in the shadows. Now that you got a little forum where there's hate being spewed, you want to come on, then jump on the bandwagon. And what's interesting is that with that interview with JB was the beginning of that. It was something that was already there, But that's what really set the tone for what came not even a week or two after that. And then it just all came but it was the best thing that could have happened for me. I feel like it's one of the best things that could have happened for you, because I know for a fact that when you made the decisions that you made for your own benefit so that you can move on with your life and not be filled with this confusion and, restlessness to put it in, to put it mildly. I know for a fact that people like myself, brothers like Oxacab, it's like, yes, it's like, yeah, we so happy for Take, man, because that wasn't the right environment for Take. And I wasn't the only person that felt like that. And it couldn't have come at a better time. We may have not seen it as that at that particular moment, but looking at back at it retrospectively, I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time. Now that I'm going into this new year and this year of 2022 being almost over, I just feel like, man, I'm very much looking forward to the fellowship that has now been established with certain people and being established with others for what's to come, because it's really good. It's really positive. And that's why I named the show Let Love Conquer Hate. Because what I started realizing, and just a quick note too, for those that are listening, Take One and I come from Caribbean backgrounds. So my family comes from the island of Puerto Rico, and Take One's family comes from the island of Haiti. And we're not Gentiles. I just wanted to put that out there. So also, another thing is that I started to notice that I was becoming this very pessimistic person while thinking that I was a righteous man. But a lot of my actions that I was displaying, conveying, portraying in my walk of life, in day-to-day activities in this world, because even though we're not of this world, we still have to live in this world. No matter what, we got to. I mean, every time we go to Walmart, we got to deal with the world. It comes with the territory. But I started to notice that I was isolating myself in a very unhealthy manner, to where I was limiting myself based on the ideologies and belief systems of people that I was congregating with. And because of that, it was limiting what the Most High truly has shown me is the life that I should be living. And I was kind of I'm a little ashamed to admit it, but I was kind of very delusional in my own reality, thinking that I was somewhat special, that I was somewhat this being that was very superior to most people in today's society, only to get an ass whooping. And the way I look at it, I got my ass whooped by the Most High to let me know, hey, a lot of these people that you're congregating with, it's not your people. And a lot of what you think you're living is really a lie. You're not really about this life that I gave for you to understand through my word. You're just not doing that. So if you are going to do it, I'm going to have to take you out of it so that you can realize it. But because we have that freedom of will, it doesn't necessarily mean that even though the Most High forced me out, that I would have turned to correcting my errors and really practicing repentance. Because I could have been like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. You took me out of this situation. Well, I'm going to be even more hateful. I'm going to be even more judgmental. I'm going to dehumanize the world even more. And I'm just so grateful that I didn't do that, because in actuality, that's not who I was. And even though I may have been practicing these types of behaviors like you and I did, where we isolated ourselves, where we took on certain roles in our life that maybe we shouldn't have, but everything happens for a reason. And sometimes, like when we did that song together, A Quest for Salvation, right? On the hook, I said, I done made mistakes on purpose. Now you, because, you know, you've gotten to know me, you know about the whole double entendre things and how I rhyme. But for those that don't know, when I say I done made mistakes on purpose, I'm not just saying that I made those mistakes deliberately, but I made those mistakes to serve a greater purpose, a greater understanding for me to elevate in my spiritual understanding and being more understanding and rooted into the word of the Most High's ways instead of my ways. And the only way I'm going to get there is by making these mistakes that serve the greater purpose, which that purpose is the Most High. And that's all I wanted to say, brother. You can take it from there.
Yeah, great points made. I mean, especially about the isolation. Yeah, isolation is definitely, I don't know, it's like slow. I like to look at it as like how people vape every day. I mean, nothing against you if you vape or anything like that. It's not meant to be, offensive or anything like that. But we obviously know, like, vaping and like, smoking cigarettes and the nicotine and whatnot, how addictive that is. Like how you're basically dying slowly because, you're destroying your lungs. You know what I'm saying? Your breathing system and functionality, right? So that's kind of like how I look at isolation, because, when you isolate yourself and put yourself on an island where you're not associating with not even one person, nobody can really, talk to you, and, you're not really associating with anybody else. As a human being, that's not really a healthy thing. And, obviously coming out of the environment that we just came out of in a way of thinking, it kind of rubs off on you like that. I mean, I know it did for me, and I know you just said it did for you as well. But, for me speaking, obviously for myself, it definitely did rub off on me, because I kind of find myself like, just isolating myself from everybody, thinking like, everybody else is the problem, and really, it's me, I'm saying? Like, there's things about myself that I gotta fix. There's things about myself that I gotta straighten out. You know what I mean? And you never really know that if you're just, in the corner to yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, there's people out there, who's willing to help. There's people out there that's willing to, talk to you, associate with you. I'm saying, so that way you can get out of that state that you're in. And all of this, I acquired, over time, being in that environment. Now I'm, really starting to heal from it and become all the better for it, because now, I'm actually able to associate more so with a circle of people that are of a like mind. And it's a lot more peaceful for me. It's a lot more what I need at this point, in my life. You know what I'm saying? At, 24 years old, growing, learning and evolving, into what it is that, the Most High truly sees me as and what he created me to be. And you also got to look at it, at the root core of it all as well, from a spiritual standpoint. The more you isolate yourself and you're getting away from the body, the more demons can really start to pile up on you. We spoke about this, like when you're not really self-examining yourself, things within yourself that's just not quite right, that you may have to fix. Skeletons in the closets, stuff like that. I mean, we're not perfect, but at the same time, when you're not really associating yourself with anybody that is on the same path as you, and, they're trying to live their lives a lot more balanced, just and righteously. But you're just all on your own. I'm saying? It can be dangerous. It really, really can. Demons love isolation. They can really gang up on you, stomp on you. Make you fall into all those temptations that they're placing before you. And before you know it, you're going to get to a point where it's just like, you can't say no to anything. You're just deliberately sinning just to keep on sinning and just making all these kinds of wrong decisions. So where it's just like, man, the Most High, he can't even really use you. I mean, you're so caught up. You're so under that, demonic influence. So it's just like, you're just so far gone. All of that can happen, due to isolation, but being a part of that body, and, networking and associating yourself with, people that, have your best interests at heart, to touch on that point again, because, I talked about it, in the previous point, it's very, very, important that you do so, because trust me, there's people that care about you, but it's, like I said, when you just want to isolate yourself all the time, it's like, I honestly feel like it's just sometimes, those demons that just don't want you to, because demons, they hate the light. They really, really do. So it's just like, you choose to listen to that rather than, doing the right thing, and you suffer for it, but it's always a good thing to, be amongst, your brothers, your sisters that truly care about you. It's only, good for your own well-being and spiritual health.
Can you remember a time or a couple of experiences that you would feel comfortable sharing where you feel like in the title or in the artwork where it says, be careful not dehumanizing with people you disagree with. Can you recollect the time where you were disagreeing and found yourself looking back on it retrospectively, like where you was dehumanizing people based on the fact that you didn't agree with something they said or was doing with their lives?
Well, as far as dehumanizing, no, I don't, because I don't operate that way. I mean, if I disagree with you, I just, it's just a disagreement and we just leave it at that. But as far as dehumanizing you and, making you feel less of a human being and slandering you, nah, I would not go that far. Because that right there, you're really hurting yourself when you do stuff like that. Karma is very real, or, as the saying goes, you reap what you sow, that's very, very real. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm just in disagreement with you, hey, it is what it is. We just disagree. You know what I'm saying? We can maybe talk about it, but if, we still disagree, then it is what it is. Just leave it alone. But there's no reason to, get out of line and just totally make somebody feel less of themselves.
Okay, let me rephrase the question, because that probably wasn't the right question to ask somebody like you. Have you ever found yourself doing things based on the influence of others that was very unbecoming of your human spirit to evolve and grow in?
Oh yeah, of course that, and you do these things thinking that you're doing the right thing essentially, because, for me, I guess I cared a lot about just what people would think about me, but at the end of the day, you can't live to please man. It's not about pleasing man, and it's not about, doing everything that you can to appear credible in the eyes of man and seeking his praises and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's about what the Most High thinks ultimately, because those very same people that you're trying to earn praise from, they're not going to be with you when you're standing before the throne being judged, And so to answer your question, yes, I have, or, and just in this very recent situation, like how we're talking about, that was the very root of it. That was very much the case,
What do you think was the main factor or moment for your experience, whether it be of this recent one or experiences from the past where you felt like that was that pivotal moment to change your way of thinking that made you be like, I need to stop caring about what other people are going to look at me as or think of me based on what I'm doing or saying? What can you recollect, like that pivotal moment that made you switch gears, so to speak, switch direction in the way of your thinking when it came to caring about what other people think about you?
Well, just to, stay on, just this situation alone, but even, I guess in past dealings as well. But this was obviously a more extreme case because, how monumental it was. But the Most High, like I said, he always shows you signs and you can't ignore these signs. It's funny because, I can, think in hindsight, a lot of the conversations me and JB would have, how it's like when the Most High has it before you to do something, he's trying to show you something. So that way you'll make a choice that's going to help you further down the line. It's like a revolving door effect because it just comes up and up and up. It's like you can't escape it. You could try to escape it. You could try to ignore it. But ultimately, the Most High, his judgment always supersedes whatever ignorance or that you're trying to portray or whatever stubbornness that you have. It reminds me of Moses, when he was pretty much telling him that he's going to lead Israel out of Egypt. Moses was just so afraid. He was so nervous, because he was shy. He didn't really speak much. He was just a very meek man, but he was very shy. But ultimately, he still winded up doing exactly what it was that the Most High, commanded and expected of him regardless. And I bring that up as a reference because it's the same thing like with me, with all of us. When the Most High has it before you to make a decision that's going to help you because he cares about you and he wants you to do the right thing. He takes no delight in our demises and downfalls. You have to adhere. And I knew that I had to adhere because these signs were just coming up and I just felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I couldn't even really think straight. My level of momentum and creative, flow, I was just slowly but surely just starting to, it's still there, but it just wasn't really firing the way in which it usually does, because this thing is mentally blocking me. I can't really focus, because the Most High is like, until you handle this, you're not going to really be able to progress. Think of it as like a stumbling block or some roadkill on the road, large roadkill at that, perhaps like a moose or a buffalo, like roadkill on the road. Until you get this thing out of the way, you can't forward progress. And so at the end of the day, I guess it's just that overall fear that I have of the Most High and what will do to me if I don't listen that really propelled me to do so. It's really just the fear of the Most High alone and how he views me. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, once again, what people are going to say about you. It's all about the Most High's judgment. He's the one who determines ultimately what happens to you, both in this life and the next.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just such an important principle, because I was talking about this with Jay Baroni in the sense that it's such an important principle to practice, because Robert Kiyosaki talks about it in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where it's like, if you care about what other people think about you, you're never going to have any meaningful success in your life. Like, you're never going to grow because you're too busy, caring about what other people think about you. And it's such it's not a good way to live, because you're basing your life on somebody else's opinion of you that really doesn't matter, especially when that person, you're not doing anything to them. They're not doing anything for you. It's not like they're your mother or father, and even to a certain degree, you can't even care about what your parents think about you when you want to do something. It's something that a lot of us challenge. Like, let's say, for example, I met a Indian girl who, her family wanted her to go a certain trajectory in her life when it came to medicine and medical. And she decided to go in a different direction because she was more passionate about doing that specific thing opposed to being like a doctor or a lawyer. Let's say she wanted to be an artist or a motivational speaker, whatever the case. And it's like, even when it comes to something like that, you can't care about what your parents think about it, because you got to do what's right for you. But especially when it comes to people that you don't even know that well, strangers, and that are not paying your bills, they're not doing anything for you, and you're going to care about what they have to say based on what you're doing when it's not hurting them, it's not a detriment to their life, it's not putting them at a disadvantage. And it's like, what am I doing? Why am I caring about what this other person thinks about me when they're not doing a damn thing for me, and what they think about me is really insignificant? But unfortunately, a lot of people don't even realize that. A lot of people never come out of that way of thinking. It's something that it winds up being a part of their life for the rest of their life. And then they wind up living a life that is constantly in the process of trying to please others, instead of trying to please themselves and to truly find themselves and discover who they truly are as a spiritual being having a physical experience. So they wind up becoming a carbon copy, so to speak, of who they are based on the ideologies of others. And that happens a lot here in America, right? Where a perfect example of that is these girls that are now modifying their bodies to look a certain way, whether it is injecting Botox into their face for their cheeks to be more defined or their lips to be more defined, or if they're putting eyelashes on their eyes to, I guess, for them to look pretty according to the American standard of what beauty is, or girls that are taking fat out of their stomach to inject into their butts so their butts can be more of that apple bottom, so to speak. And it's kind of like you're seeing so much of this. And it's like the more you try to please others or to please others and create this image to look a certain way or to be a certain way, it's like you lose yourself little by little, more and more, trying to please others instead of really being pleasing to the Most High. What do you think about that, brother?
Yeah, that I agree with. That's why on social media these days, it's just quite comedic because it's like the way in which people portray themselves. It's like as if I'm this, overachieving, individual, when in reality, if you were to, see this person, I mean, you see them exactly for what they are. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, nobody's ever really as great as they may try to make themselves look. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still human beings. We still all have flaws. We still all have, issues and pitfalls in life that we have to, find a way to get through, social media is notorious for just only displaying the highlights, and when people just get so infatuated with these highlights, they think that that's how that individual is, all the time, but what they fail to realize is that's really what it is. It's just highlights. But, that person, you don't know what type of demons they might be battling, behind the scenes. You don't know what type of, insecurities that they may have. You don't know what type of demons they see as they look at that man in the mirror every single day. You know what I'm saying? What they're dealing with. You're only looking at, once again, the grass isn't greener on the other side, man. It's just not, And so, but, for some people are just very conscious about it. They're very, very much conscious about, keeping up a certain image in the eyes of the public. So they'll go to whatever links necessary to keep that going, especially if that image that these people have in their minds about that particular individual is, somewhat of a benefit to them, financially speaking, I guess that is, right? If it generates some type of revenue, some types of income, and then for some, it's just strictly an ego boost. That's it. Just simply ego inflation. I mean, these people, they see me in this light. They think of me to be this way when, realistically, I'm really not that way. But if they want to believe it, it makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Why stop that? So, I mean, the same goes for men and it goes for women. You know what I'm saying? For women, it's obviously a lot more, sexual appeal and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because women can be insecure. And then for men, it's obviously just, really the same thing, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Just making them, selves feel good. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just, the king of the world, so to speak. But the fact of the matter is it goes for both parties. And I just think that social media has definitely been, the heart of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's been quite the foundation for that way of thinking to be all the more prevalent as it is in these days and times, man. It's sad, but it is what it is. That's just the days and times that we're in.
What do you think has, if you could give a great breakdown in your personal experiences from the difference between when you felt or when you were operating in a loving spirit opposed to when you were operating in a hateful spirit? Can you recollect on a time when you were operating in a hateful spirit and how that went along for you, or how that particular experience went for you opposed to the feelings and the emotions that you felt and the experience spiritually that you felt operating in a loving spirit?
Well, I guess work, like, cause, usually, at work, I'm usually a very, calm individual. I usually try to stay in the spirit, so to speak, if we want to bring, a word into this. So that's essentially what it is, the fruits of the spirit. But I usually am a calm individual at work. But, me working in an environment, like a restaurant environment, that's not always going to be easy. It definitely does require, a disciplined, practical approach each and every day, each and every time, you're in that environment in order for it to really, supersede, what we naturally tend to do as human beings, which is, lash out, the works of the flesh, like, the book of Galatians 5 speaks of, or Galatians chapter 5, starting at verse 19 and going on down, where it speaks of the works of the flesh. Obviously one of those things being hatred, strife, wrath. It's just so easy to fall into that, that gap. If you don't, calm yourself, if you don't catch your grip or exercise self-control, because it's so easy to fall into those impulses, man. I'm telling you, it's easy, man. It's very, very much easy. But, the more and more you practice it, obviously the better you get at it. And the most, most importantly, the Most High, really, keeps you balanced as well. But yeah, just one day, it was just like, I guess the influx of orders or demands, which is nothing that I'm not used to. But I guess on this particular day, because we all have, that one day where it's just like, you're not all the way there. I guess, the way in which I was being demanded of things, I guess I didn't quite, take it well, like the manner in which it was being said, to me. I guess I felt, somewhat disrespected. So, I guess without even really thinking or really even, having any type of conscious thought, I just kind of, lashed out a bit, what I'm saying? Like, I didn't say anything like dehumanizing, what I'm saying, to put that person down or anything, but it's the way I responded with, like the way you could tell it like in my voice that I've just, I've had it up to here, like leave me alone, get out my face. You know what I mean? Like that type of approach. And of course, there's an apology afterwards, whatnot. I got to make amends for what I just did there. Even if I don't care how little or how big it is, I'm always going to, hold myself accountable for the wrong of my own hands. And I'm always going to try to, if I did wrong, I'm always going to try to make that right. I'm always going to try to make straight what I made crooked, what I'm saying, because of my inability to, exercise the fruits of the spirit and stay in that very calm, controlling attitude that I'm usually in. And so, the way that I felt when I did it, I was just like, I'm just so out of line here. That's just not me. I'm saying, why would I do something like that? This person has never done anything to me. They're just simply asking for this. And once again, I no matter in which it was said to me, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? You always gotta, at the end of the day, you always have that choice. You always have that power of choice and decision. And in that moment, after doing what I did, I'm saying, I just, I had to apologize. And it all worked out well. It all worked out well in the end. There was, no heavy offense or anything like that taken, but, I had to examine myself, even ask Yah for forgiveness, for not, displaying, the traits that he wants us to display, the fruits of the spirit, speaking, and not staying in that spirit, staying in that light and everything. But like I said, it all worked out, it all worked out, and, it's business as usual, I guess you can say.
Now that you broke that down, I'm going to be like a psychiatrist. And how did that make you feel when you were operating in that hate?
Oh, man, heart racing, I guess is a way you can, say it. Your heart is like beating like a mile a minute because it's such an impulsive thing. It's such an impulsive act. When it's something that's just like very impulsive because, the way I felt, like, it's just like, literally like a switch, man. You know what I mean? It's like a switch, like instantly, what I'm saying? Like no conscious thought, like, oh, you know what I mean? But that's really the best way I can explain it, man. It's just quite heart racing, man.
Now that you talked about that hateful emotions and feelings, what about when you were operating in a loving spirit, when you were operating in love, in kindness? Can you recollect on how that felt with a particular situation you went through?
Oh, yeah, of course. My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off or anything like that.
No, it's all good, bro.
Yeah. And when I'm in that, loving spirit, which I, always, tend to practice, what I'm saying? Every single day, I really do always try to stay in that light, in that spirit. That's what we're all trying to do, right? I just find everything's just a lot easier. Everything's a lot more calm, everything's a lot more, decision wise, everything's a lot more rational. Everything is a lot more orderly. And I just feel a lot better, about, the way I'm treating others, about myself, not doing anything wrong to nobody, just trying to be as blameless as I can be, before the Most High, and just really exemplify the character, in which or the characteristics in which I, tend to lean to. And so, yeah, it always makes me feel a lot better, always makes me feel a lot better.
Can you talk about a particular experience in regards to that, when you were operating in that spirit, and how, you already talked about how it makes you feel and you do that every day, but can you recollect on a specific experience where you operated in that manner, from coming from a loving spirit, and what came out of it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, if we want to refer to to work again. You know, just dealing with some of my coworkers. You know, I'm just coming from a loving spirit. I remember this time, probably this time last year, there was a coworker of mine's. Obviously, you know, the situation that he was in, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was living out of his car and everything like that. Right in the state that I'm in, because I'm out here in Georgia. Another day in Georgia. But
shout outs to all the listeners out in Georgia, baby. Love y'all. Appreciate your support, man. Georgia's been showing a lot of love, man.
But this individual, and he was not too far from me. He was just up above me, because I'm in the more northern area of Georgia, you know, around Gainesville and everything like that. And, you know, he was in more of the mountainous areas, you know, where you get like snow, you know, more than periodically. You know what I'm saying? It's more of a constant recurring thing. But, you know, he was living out of his car and everything like that. And, you know, he usually has to rely on fires, like actual fires built from scratch in order to heat up his food and stuff like that. And he was telling me about these things. I'm just like, hey, man, look, you know what I'm saying? Because me, you know, personally, I have a lot of, like, you know, shit hits the fan. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot of, you know, things stored away if that were to happen, you know, pretty much on standby. And, you know, one of those items that I had was, what's it called? You can get them at Walmart for like pretty cheap, or you can even order them online. It's one of those like portable grills and whatnot, the ones where you got to buy the butane bottles and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I actually have one. I have two, to be honest. I have two of those. Yeah. They're like little portable grills or hot plates that you can heat up with butane. They even have some that are electrical, but obviously if shit hits the fan, most of the time, especially we get hit with some electromagnetic pulse, chances are we're going to be hit with that, right? So we're not going to have electricity. So we're going to have to rely on gas, or like the dude you're talking about, but you're going to have to make a fire out of sticks and wood, you know, like, and actually like spark something up. But go ahead. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
All right, great. Give me 1 second, or 1 second.
Yeah. So brothers and sisters, while Take One is taking his break, I will be playing music towards the end of the broadcast. We're going to play some music from Take One. We're going to play some music from Julian Demon Slayer. We're going to play some music from The Free, as well as Rico Moss, and songs from myself. And we're going to play some instrumentals from Oxakai. So we got a lot of good music that we're going to play towards the end of this broadcast. And for those that may be tuning in and coming into this broadcast a little bit later, we're talking about Let Love Conquer Hate, and how we have to hold ourselves accountable on a regular basis, but we have to congregate amongst people that can hold us accountable, like we hold other people accountable and hold ourselves accountable. Because sometimes we may be conducting in behavior that's unbecoming of the human spirit that the Most High gave us to be productive and to be in that peaceful, harmonious spirit. And we might be delusional from that based on our egos, because usually the ego is the main component in making you think that you're doing something right that is completely wrong. And that's what a lot of brothers and sisters struggle with, is the ego, because a lot of times the ego is what keeps you from repenting, and you stray away from repentance because the ego doesn't allow you to even get to the point to want to repent and to be repentful. So something to keep in mind. That's why love does conquer hate. Let love conquer the hate within you. If you're somebody who is operating in a very negative fashion, ask yourself why. And I'm going to tell you something. It's usually, I'm not saying all the time, but it's usually with the people you're hanging out with, because birds of a feather flock together. And like Take One and I were talking about, you know, we were congregating with people where it really wasn't that comfortable. So it's something to really be aware of. It's very important. All right, Take You back?
Yes, I'm back. All
right.
Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, to, you know, finish on my point, right? So yes, with this coworker, you know, he was telling me about his situation and everything like that, you know, living outside of his car, you know, being in the snow, you know, having to pretty much heat up his meals with fires made by scratch and stuff like that. I was pretty much just telling him like, yo, like, bro, you know, I have this extra, portable, stove, you know what I'm saying, back at the crib and whatnot, you know what I'm saying, that I'm not really using, if you, I could definitely, hook you up and everything like that. He's just like, oh, really, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, you do that? And I was like, man, bro, of course. Like, I'll like, when's the next time you work and everything like that? Because he was literally like fresh in. You know, he already worked there before, but that was like years ago. But he came back, you know. He had just came back from, I forgot which part of Florida, but I think it might have been Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, yeah, that's where he was coming. And then he just moved back, you know, to Georgia because he was already there once originally. And I was just telling him, like, yo, man, like, when's the next time you work? You know, I could definitely bring that for you and everything. And he was just like, yeah, I just got to like go to Walmart and buy like the butane, you know, canisters and whatnot, because that's pretty much the fuel for the stove to operate and for you to like heat up your, you know, your meals, or even if you just wanted to like have some warmth or anything like that, you know, that's pretty much what propels the flames, you know, lower or higher. But I was just telling him like, yo, I mean, you can still do that, but I'll even bring, you know, the canisters as well, man. It's yours, man. You can have it, you know. And he was just so, you know, happy and elated about it. And I'm just like, bro, you know what I'm saying? This is what we do, man. You know what I'm saying? This is what we do, bro. I got you, man. You know, and I, of course, you know, delightfully, you know, brought that for him the very next time that I saw him. And, yeah, it was definitely, you know, helpful for him because, you know, he didn't have to, I mean, I'm pretty sure that, you know, he still, you know, at times, you know what I'm saying, might have, you know, built fires from scratch, but he didn't have to do it like all the time. He can more so consistently, you know, use that as opposed to having to, you know, take more time because you're already in the cold, you're around the snow and you're living out of your car and whatnot. So it's just like, you know, why not have what it is that you need, you know, right away as opposed to, you know, waiting, you know, longer. It's just a lot more convenient for him in his situation. And I was just happy that, you know, I was able to help him out like that. You know, it made, you know, me feel good to know that, you know, like, hey, you know what I'm saying? That's, you know, a person who has to, you know, deal with a lot less of a burden, so to speak. And yeah, you know, it was definitely a peaceful feeling that I was left with after that situation.
That's a beautiful story, man. And something that I feel like is that I say a lot is the little things are really the big things, man. You know, because something like that, somebody may look at it from their perspective like that's a little nice gesture that you did, but it's really a big one, you know, because from that story alone and many stories that I've heard and even in my own personal experience of helping people, it's like those little things, they may seem small in the scope of life, but they're huge. They're big. They're a big deal because not only is it a reflection of what your spirit is representing and emanating, which is beautiful, but it's also what it does for the person that you're giving that. Because something I always say, and I stick by this, the Most High revealed this to me at age 26, I believe. Yeah, it was 26 years old. And I never forget it, man. It's like you already been given gifts. You already have fruits of the spirit to share. So when you do something like that for somebody else, like you did for that man who now doesn't have to, you know how much time you must have saved that man? Because listen, I was in Boy Scouts. I've done survival training, wilderness training, all that. All right. It's not easy to make a fire. All right. It really isn't. That takes work. It takes a lot of patience, and you better have it because if you don't, you're not going to have a fire. So you know how much time you saved that man into eating a meal, you know what I mean? And made it a lot easier process for him to deal with other things opposed to having to create a fire just to eat. But also what I was saying was that when you do something for somebody else, there is nothing to expect in return because the gift has already been given back to you already because you have the ability to do something for somebody else. So to expect something in return for what you have the ability to do for somebody is pointless because you've already been given the gift back, which is the ability to do for them. The Most High has already blessed you and graced you and giving you that opportunity to be able to do something for somebody else. So that's why it's people, and especially with people that are empaths, man. People that are empaths statistically in the world that we live in don't make as much money as a narcissist. The way that American society is structured in today's world, narcissistic people are always going to make more money because they have no empathy. So whatever the bottom line is, they're going to just seek to gain that. And no matter who they got to step on, even if it's their own mother's neck to get to that success or to get to that goal of income and revenue, they're going to do it. Whereas an empath, which there's a lot of us in this country, where we're not going to be poor or whatever, you're not going to be always broke or anything like that, but you're just not going to make as much money as a person who is a narcissist because you are empathetic. It's not all about the bottom dollar. It's not all about being in the black. It's not all about, numbers. It's really more about the human experience. And sometimes, like in that movie, The Wedding Singer, where Adam Sandler's character, when he's teaching this old lady piano lessons and helping her sing a song that she wants to sing to her husband on their 50th anniversary of their wedding, of their marriage, he gives her the lessons and she's like, well, I don't have money to pay you. He goes, that's okay. And then she's like, I'm going to pay you in meatballs. She's like, put your hands out. And she puts the meatballs in his hands. And a lot of us are like that are empaths. It's like, you know what? I don't always need your money. Like, I'm just glad that I was able to help you out. And I'll take that payment in meatballs sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to enjoy the shit out of that meatball. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of having the fruits of the spirit, flowing through you, that the Most High is working through all of us in this one big experience. We are all observers of the main observer being our creator. This creator of this vast and beautiful and wonderful universe that we live in. And when we stop operating in the very principles that have been laid as the foundation before we even existed, we really get to experience all the beauty and the excitement and the joy and jubilation of what this thing called life is really all about, instead of experiencing all of the lower negative vibrations, which do serve a purpose. But it doesn't serve a purpose for us to be in that vibration day in and day out, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. And I know people like that. I've met people. I was in relationships with people like that. They wake up. I used to have a girlfriend that she used to be like, oh, I'm feeling aggy. I'm like, you just woke up. And then she stayed like that throughout the whole day. And that's why it's so important that not only that we congregate with people that are going to hold us accountable, but we congregate with people of like minds that are peaceful and that are good-hearted and that have righteous intentions in the way they operate in life to serve the Most High and others. But it's also important that we speak this to ourselves, that we speak this out in private and in public, that you speak positivity, because the words that you speak is what you become. And I'm starting to see certain brothers that have spoke very wickedly out of their mouth, and how karma's whipping them in the ass, because whatever you start becoming or speaking, it's going to come back to you. That's how the universe works. So that's why it's important, people, that we be very careful in the way we speak in private. And what I mean by in private, meaning when we're actually talking to ourselves, when our lips are not moving, but the mind is working. We're talking to ourselves telepathically, so to speak, right? And also what we speak out in public, because that energy, just like any other light wave, gets sent out and it's going to disrupt, or it's going to elevate, or it's going to bring down. So, like I mentioned, brothers and sisters, I'm going to play some music. But before I do, any last comments or anything you want to leave the listeners off with for this episode 95 of season 4, Let Love Conquer Hate?
Well, that point that you made about, empaths, how obviously the narcissist, he'll obviously be a lot more successful. No, that's true. The more apathetic you are and care less about, others, it's true. It's very, very true. Corporate America is very much the case. The higher up the ladder you climb, the less human you become. You become desensitized to how others beneath you feel. You really can care less, But it's the point you made about how you would literally, stomp on your own mother's neck. And instantly when you said that, I was just thinking of like Kanye, because I was like prime example. Look what he had to do. Look how apathetic he had to be in order to get to the level that he's at. And he regrets it every single day of his life, But it just goes to show you the lengths that you have to go to in order to be that successful, And for what, you got to ask, at what price? To wake up every day just, in regret of what you've done? Is that really living? It's a nightmare, But I also just wanted to, make one quick analogy since this, title of this show is, Let Love Conquer Hate. And it reminds me of The Lion King's 2, Simba's Pride, because throughout the movie, it was this ongoing feud that pretty much it was like a domino effect. It really had a lot to do with the events that took place in the first movie, The Lion King. But in this one, it was like an ongoing feud between the lions, pretty much. You had obviously Simba, son of, his father Mufasa, who died in the first one, at the hands of his own treacherous, envious brother, Scar, who let him literally fall off of the cliff instead of helping his brother up and allowed him to literally fall to his own death. But, and then you also had, Zira, who was a very, very passionate and avid and committed follower of Scar, who was pretty much the villainous character. And so it was just this ongoing feud that they have. Like, and it kind of reminds me literally of what we went through. Like, okay, like whose side are you on? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, but towards the end, because I'm not going to like drag it out. I mean, you just have to watch it. But long story short, it's what happened towards the end. And forgive me, listeners out there, if I'm spoiling it for you, if you never ever saw Lion King's 2, Simba Pride, much less the first one. But the thing is, since it is love conquer hate, towards the end, it's the manner in which they were dealing. They were finally able to put their differences aside, or at least some of them, not all of them. Because once again, some people cling so, desperately to hatred to where it literally is their demise. And it was just this one scene and it was reminiscent of the first Lion King where Scar, apathetically let his brother fall to his own death rather than like lifting him up, from falling off of that cliff. It was like the same thing, because Simba had a daughter, her name was Kiara. And, she was kind of in somewhat of a tussle with Zira, not necessarily. She wasn't trying to like kill her or anything like that. It was really more so the other way around. Zira was trying to kill Kiara. But thing is, Zira, she found herself, hanging from a cliff, about to fall into the water, because I guess it was like a dam set up, but the dam broke and the water just started like flooding through and everything like that. Temporarily, because it was so backed up. But to get to the point of the matter is she was trying to help her, Kiara. She was trying to help this, this lioness, because that's pretty much what she was. She was a lioness. She was a female lion. She was trying to help her up. But it's like, as she's trying to help her up, she's like, grab my paw. She's just like, it's like she's just trying to like, swipe her hand out the way, like get out of my face. Like, I'm like, like she's trying to help you from falling to your own death. But it's because of that hate, she wasn't willing to allow love to conquer the hatred that she had inside because of this, pent up resentment, due to the death of her beloved, leader, from the events of the first movie. In the end, like I said, love, it did conquer hate, amongst the lions. They were finally able to put their differences aside, and all of this divisional tension that they had was finally able to subside. But the reason why I made that last point is because although that was the case for the majority, it doesn't mean it's always going to be that for everyone. Some people, they're going to cling to that hatred to the very death of them. Literally to the very death of them. They don't care. That's just how much they have it rooted in them. But I guess I say all that just to say that in the end, the Most High conquers all. He always reigns supreme. The Most High always will remain, undisputed, undefeated. He is the beginning and he is the end. He's the Ancient of Days. He has no beginning. He has no end. And his will, his principles that he expects us to uphold and keep to the best of our abilities every single day, putting them into practice. None of that will ever be superseded by anyone, or anything. Satan, his time is very, very shortened. There will be a time where we no longer have to, live in this constant, everyday, long suffering, mode that we're in right now, because that's just temporarily what we're dealing with. But in the end, the Most High will have his glory. He will have, his promises, fulfilled. It's already happening. It's already happening, because we are just in those times, and time is so nigh for the Messiah to return. And so I guess I'll just leave with the listeners, allow love, not hatred, because it'll only do you better, for the days of your life, So thank you for letting me be on this early, Friday, and hope to be back on, of course.
Yeah.
And I just hope that you listeners out there, have a beautiful day, and may the Most High be with you.
Yeah, well said, brother. And what you talked about, that division that was created, that's what narcissists do, man. It's called triangulation. They like to pin people against each other. I wasn't trying to have anybody pick a side. I didn't know there was a side to pick until it was created. But that's what narcissists do, people. That's why you got to be very careful and distance yourself from these toxic individuals like this man's platform that Take One and I separated ourselves from, because if not, you start to become like the people that you listen to and gravitate to for the reasons of camaraderie and congregation. But, birds of a feather flock together, and you start to become that. And if that's not really what your spirit is compelling you to do, you got to get away from that. So be very aware when you're dealing with narcissists that they're going to triangulate. They're going to create this, you got to choose a side, like either my side or their side. And, unfortunately, a lot of people believed in that illusion and chose the narc side, and that's their challenge and their burden. I pray for those brothers and sisters because I know a lot of them are good people. I know a lot of them have righteous intentions. Not all of them, because some of them are just pieces of shit. Let's just call it what it is. But there are some of those brothers and sisters that are good people, and I really pray for them. One thing that makes me very content and it gives me peace of mind because I sleep well is the fact that I know I did right. And nobody can say I did them dirty. The only person who created the illusion of me being this dirty individual was the narc. That was the creator of the chaos, the creator of the division, and the disciple of discord. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, don't get caught up in the hateful actions of others. Understand that you are that beautiful essence that you were created to be, and we have to operate, but that comes with a lot of accountability. And if you're in an environment where nobody's being held accountable, you have to ask yourself, is it really serving you well to be in those environments? So like I mentioned before, we're going to play some music. And thanks again to Brother Take One for coming on to the show. And like I always say, brothers and sisters, when you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up that dark tunnel and find your way through the darkness and be that everlasting light that you were graced with when you came into this planet in the first place. So this is Aura the Informationalist with Take One on episode 95 of season 4. Let love conquer hate, saying peace, love, and light, and all praises to the great creator of that which is and always will be, the Most High. Peace, brothers and sisters.